In a span of about 4 months, I went from being skinny fat at 150 pounds to, so I took a poll and I asked you guys what your body type was. I was actually surprised to see majority of you guys are skinny fat. Before I got fit 2 years ago, I was skinny fat majority of my life. It was always a big insecurity of mine. I would go to YouTube and look up how to fix skinny fat. Should I cut? Should I bulk? And I never really got a clear answer. So now that I've been on both sides, I've been skinny fat. Now I have more of a muscular body. I want to let you guys know what I did exactly. I'm just going to tell you what worked for me. You could take the lessons and the mistakes I made and just apply it to yourself. So flashback to my sophomore year of college. I was 20 at the time. I weighed 150 pounds. When I was faced with the question of whether I should cut or bulk, I decided to do a bulk. My thinking at the time was, I'm already skinny. I don't really have that much muscle to begin with. Why don't we go on a bulk and just build that foundation? I went online, I looked up my maintenance calories. I added about 500 to it because at the time I thought the more calories you add, the more muscle you're gonna put on probably. Now I know that's false, but at the time it just made sense. So I went on this bulk. Anytime I noticed that my weight was stalling, I would just keep upping the calories. And during this time, I did get very strong in my lifts. I was hitting PRs every other week. My bench went from 1 plate to a plate and a 35. But that's the thing when you dirty bulk, you get addicted to the strength because the strength comes very quickly. I remember at one point, I stopped gaining weight and I just kept wanting to gain more strength. So I started taking weight gainers. I started making these disgusting shakes where I would put weight gainer, a banana, peanut butter, olive oil, and I gained the weight, but like I wasn't even looking good in the mirror. In a span of about 4 months, I went from being skinny fat at 150 pounds to 175 pounds and chubby. It got to the point where buttons on my shirts, whenever I wore like a dress shirt, it just started popping off. My face, I was retaining so much salt. People that hadn't seen me in months were shocked to see me. They weren't even saying like, oh, you look big. They were saying like, why do you look so different? What are you trying to do? So the big lesson from that, guys, is probably don't dirty bulk. The strength that you gain is very addicting. I know that, but aesthetically, you're just not gonna look right. I will admit that a lot of my strength that I have today came from that dirty bulk, but it wasn't worth the mental toll it took on me just being that heavy. So if I could talk to myself, say I never went on that dirty bulk and I stayed skinny fat, here's what I tell them. For me, I was a student at the time and I went to school 5 days a week. Even though my schedule was really sporadic, every single day I was free at 1 p.m. For you, if you're skinny fat, the first step is just getting in the gym consistently. Whether you work or whether you go to school, look at your schedule, find that time of the day that you're consistently free. I remember I watched Black Panther a couple of years ago. When I saw Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger, I knew that was the type of body that I wanted. Once I identified what my goal was, I started figuring out the steps that I needed to get to that goal. So I looked online, I figured out that push-pull legs is a good program to get a muscular body. So I started doing a push-pull legs program. I started doing progressive overload in the gym. A lot of times, new people that go to the gym, or even people that have been going for a while, they don't have a set program or plan. A lot of it is based on, oh, I feel like hitting chest today. It's very in the moment and it's not planned out. If you want to escape skinny fat, picture in your mind what type of body you want. To get each of these different type of bodies, it requires different types of programs. Identify what your goal is and figure out the steps to get there. If you've been on my channel, you've heard me talk about this plenty of times. Progressive overload, simply put, forces your muscles to grow. The biggest changes I saw in my body is when I started adding more weight to my movements, or if I couldn't add the weight, I just upped the reps. Constantly never being content with where you are, I think, is the key thing. Obviously be safe, guys. I don't want you jumping from like 35 pounds to like 2 plates on your squats and now you're just getting injured. Do it gradually over time. If you want to develop those muscles, perform progressive overload. So the big question, if you're skinny fat, is whether you should cut or whether you should bulk. Because hypothetically, if you bulk, you already have a stomach, so that's just gonna get bigger. But if you cut, you're already working with no muscle, so you're just gonna end up scrawny. I'm not gonna tell you to bulk if you're already self-conscious that you have a stomach, but I don't want to tell you to cut because you're insecure that your muscles are already small. You know, it's depending on what you can tolerate. If you're not cool with your stomach and you're already a bit self-conscious about it, what I would recommend is doing a recomp. A recomp is where essentially your body will be building muscle but losing fat at the same time. I'm not gonna get into all the debate about it, guys, but I have seen good results from recomping. With me, when I escaped being skinny fat, I started off doing a recomp and then I went into a small cut and I was able to keep a good amount of muscle. So if you aren't cool with gaining more fat, you could eat at your maintenance calories and just continue doing progressive overload in the gym. Now for the second group, if you're not too self-conscious that you have a bit of a stomach, I would go on a lean bulk. The reason I would recommend doing a lean bulk is because you don't have much muscle to begin with. You want to build that foundation. So if you can tolerate gaining a little bit of fat, find your maintenance calories, go 200 to 300 above your maintenance, and continue performing progressive overload. Continue having that consistent gym schedule. Once you're happy with the amount of muscle that you have, you could start to cut. I already made a video on cutting once you get to that point, so you could click on that.